Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma Star, and welcome to another episode of Manspeak. Manspeak is an offshoot to our Heart Warrior series, where some of our Heart Warriors come back and talk for a whole another episode on a topic close to their heart, something they're passionate about, and something that ultimately they can teach and give great wisdom and insights around. And today we have the return again for his second Man Speak, but he is Heart Warrior number 19, and that is Kevin Orosz. And Kevin is amazing. He is a polarity relationship love coach, and I know he's over there in Bali, does lots of retreats, workshops, got a great Facebook group, and some really good insights around masculine and feminine dynamics. Now, when I approached Kevin for the show and said, well, what would you want to talk about? He's like, well, what do you think your audience will want to talk about? You choose something. So I came up with the subject of getting back into dating for men, and hopefully that'll get you guys back on the dating scene, thinking about love and opening your heart. So really excited to hear all Kevin's wisdom around this topic, and enjoy. Hello, Kevin. So happy and honored to have you back on Manspeak. Thank you. How are you doing?
Grateful to be here, Gemma. Doing amazing. Excited.
So good. I feel really grateful that you actually, sort of told me, what would your audience be interested in? And, I think a big part of it is actually for men to get back into the dating scene and have the confidence and the tools and awareness around, what actually gives them a benefit, like an advantage in the market out there. So really looking forward to this conversation. I suppose we could start with how do men know they're ready? And I would think there's two scenarios, the one that has recently split up from a relationship and the ones that have been single a long time. So could you please touch on both of those scenarios and let men know your thoughts around that?
Yeah. I encounter a lot of men. Most of my clients are men who are just ending relationships or starting one. And usually they're close together in a lot of cases, especially for older men. So in that scenario, you have an amazing opportunity to reset and restart your patterns of intimacy. And for a lot of men, this can be difficult because they've never tried that. They've kind of just been doing business as usual, which is usually why their divorce or breakup happened. So in that case, you really need to have beginner's mind. You need to start from square one and actually enact the things and have integrity that you knew you should have been doing earlier in the relationship that ended, right? And so for a lot of men, this is quite painful, but the good news is that most women, especially if they're loving, compassionate, and they're feminine, are going to be your teammate in that. They're going to want to help you grow together, even if it does involve a lot of discomfort and shadow work, what have you. Now, the other type of man, it's a different set of challenges. It can be tough to re-enter the dating scene or to start opening your heart again if you've been single for a really long time or have just been emotionally unavailable or not interested in relationships, which is more men than you think. There's more men on the planet that are single, lonely, wanting connection than there are women, because just the facts of the matter is most women, no matter what they look like, no matter their beauty or their level of work, are going to find a partner. Women are the in-demand sex, so to speak, or being. So all women, if they want it, can be in a relationship. Now, obviously, some women aren't by choice or not, but if they get out of their own way, they're going to be in a relationship. It's not the same for men. This is why the real pandemic for the masculine is suicide, addiction, and loneliness, which is really destroying a lot of young men out there and older men. And it's because men have to discipline themselves and work on it. They need to build community. They have to go out there and build a career, build a job, build a profession. And then they have to actually go into the dating scene and initiate and pursue. A lot of younger men think that women are just going to come to them through social media or swiping on apps. And unfortunately, that's not where a lot of the high quality partners are. Usually, there's always exceptions though.
Yeah, this is fascinating. And did you, just to clarify, Did you mean that women could always get a partner if they were willing to settle for something that maybe that wasn't their ideal partner?
Sure, sure. That's a great caveat because yeah, all women finding ideal partners and men and very different. But in terms of like the supply and demand, just the facts of the matter are the feminine is in demand, right? So
Right.
there's that.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so a man's feeling, okay, I'm ready. I'd like to, get into the dating scene again. Are there any questions he has to ask himself to make sure that he's ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, the main question is what are you intending? What are you available for? Do you want a lover? Do you want a casual dating kind of relationship? Do you want a partner? Do you want to get married and have kids? You need to be crystal clear on that when you enter, because that's going to determine everything from step one. And a lot of people are casually dating, sleeping around, living in hookup culture, which has been glorified by a lot of the world and media. And deep down, they actually want commitment and they're craving deep love and passion and partnership, but they're still acting like casual partners. Men and women will act this out. Other men are sometimes, what this is called simping, or it's more of a, I don't like these terms, but they're used a lot online. Simping for women, which means they'll do anything for women. They're kind of a mama's boy or more of a beta male psychology, which, use whatever terms you like. The fact of the matter is some of the men are too needy and they're obsessed with women. They put them on a pedestal and try to, they think every woman is the one and they fall in love really easily. But there's an innocence and beauty to that, but what it can create is codependency. So they need to be extremely clear and really build their frame. As a man, you need to build your frame up. So it's not just given to you. You need to develop yourself as a man. That means you need strong masculine brotherhood and you need friends. You need a community. You need to have a career and a vision and a purpose. You can be a gardener. You can be a janitor. It doesn't have to be grandiose, but you need to have a life path that you can invite a woman into with you. If you have no idea what you're doing in life and you don't have financial, at least something coming in and you're not creating your life, that's not a good time to be calling in the one. You need to sort that out first most of the time.
Yeah, I love this. So, I mean, presuming that a man has done the healing work and he is after one, right? His queen, his life partner, for a conscious relationship. Do you think that he has to be, I know you just touched on it now, but established in what he considers to be his mission and get that established before he can find his so-called counterpart, or can they go the opposite way?
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to be fully established and have it figured out, but you need to be headed in that direction. That's the starting point. I mean, even myself, I don't have everything figured out, but I'm moving in the direction, which has set me up for success in my relationship. A lot of men, if they're completely lost or they just lost a job or they don't know where they're going in their career, that's not a good time to be seriously dating until you at least have step one figured out and you're searching. So you don't need to have it all figured out. Most women don't want you to have it all figured out. They want to be with you on the adventure, especially when you're in your 20s and 30s. Now, if you're a man in his 40s and 50s and you have no idea what your vision or dharma is, it's probably time to sort that out and go in that direction. That doesn't mean you won't attract partners. And, what women are attracted to generally is a man who has a vision. He's directive, he's assertive, he's moving in a direction. And then she feels safe to surrender to him more sexually, emotionally, psychologically. So it's definitely something to focus on as a man, not focusing on the relationship, which I see a lot with clients where they put the relationship first and then career, business, vision second, which is a big no-no for the masculine.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. Um, how long between maybe starting dating again and from for men that have recently separated or split up, from their partners, how long would you recommend that they need to stay by themselves on their healing journey before they start looking again?
Yeah, this will depend based on each man. A lot of men, if they were just in a 10-year marriage, you might need to take years or a year to even be celibate or to go inward and really do your healing work and move the trauma and grieve that relationship before you start dating. If it's more of like a 3 to 6, 12-month relationship, a month to 3 months is a good amount of time to work on yourself, develop yourself, heal, and, be ready to get out there again. So it really depends on the man. A lot of men I work with, a month minimum between relationships is what I would recommend. 3 months is really the sweet spot, because in 90 days, you get, 3 21-day cycles where you can reset, oxytocin, dopamine receptors. You can reset your heart field and actually, give space and breathing room to transition into, loss, grieving, moving through the cycles of that, moving into powering back up, getting confident again, and then starting to date with, real skill and precision.
Yeah. And again, you touched on something before, but I'd like to expand. You said, for those that were looking for commitment, a life partner, how important is celibacy during that period? Like, you said a lot of men are in that sort of, what do you call it? That like, what do you call it? Like, flicking through and just hookup
Yeah,
scene,
like
right?
swiping,
Showing my
swiping,
age.
and yeah.
The hookup scene, and they're thinking, yeah, well, I'll know when I see the one, but at the time, their sexuality is energetically, not focused on that. So yeah, how important is that celibacy between relationships if you are looking for one committed partner?
Yeah, each person's gonna have to find their own way to this, because it can be a touchy topic, and celibacy can be hard for some people. That doesn't mean you don't experience pleasure, and you can still self-pleasure and be contained with your energy. But as a man, when you enter a woman, the act of penetration, you're energetically imprinting with them and bonding with them. So if you're bonding with a lot of women sexually, your energy is going to be all over the place, and you're going to have energetic cords and a lot of attachment forming, whether you like it or not. No matter how macho and unattached you are, it's still happening subconsciously. It's actually happening on a hormonal, pheromonal level. There's no way to avoid that. It's how nature bonds us together and creates family. If you want to call in the one, and you want to make your sexual experiences the most meaningful and healing and vision-based experiences, celibacy is going to be important. I know men, I think this is more common with women in my coaching work, but I do see it with men, not as much, but it happens, where in a period of celibacy, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, they hold off, they don't spill their sexual energy, they might even practice semen retention, they aren't hooking up, they're not available for casual connections like that. And then, because they're so focused on themselves, and the natural byproduct is vitality and purpose and confidence, they're going to be a match for higher quality partners. And they're going to meet that woman that they just see her. And, everyone that I talk to that's in love or has been in love, it's always, love at first sight. Love at first sight is not miraculous and rare. Most people know when they see their partner, their person. Doesn't mean you can't have multiple over a season of life, but when it's a big relationship, you'll know. And the way you know is you've sensitized yourself. So if you're using porn, if you're hooking up a lot, if you're sexually leaking your energy, you're ejaculating too much as a man, your energy field is going to be so dampened that you won't even be able to recognize her when you see her. So that's the power of celibacy.
Yeah, I love that you brought up porn too, because in this space of celibacy, so you're saying, no porn, nothing. What else is included in celibacy?
I mean, celibacy is just not sharing sexuality with another. So you can still self-pleasure, ideally without porn. You can still be vital. You can flirt. You can, have female companions and friendships, or even it can be romantic, but you set a boundary. So you can still date. You can still explore connections, but you're not getting physical. And now you got to determine what this is. Is kissing allowed? I really think that if you want to really power up as a man, again, that minimum 21 days, but 90 days, 6, 12 months will really set you up for success to create that partnership. And this is a spiritual journey. It's a quest. It's not easy. We all have needs. And what you'll find is that when you're celibate, you'll be irresistible to women if you're working on yourself, because you'll be exuding testosterone and masculine energy because you're not leaking. And so it's a challenge. You got to really be clear on what you want. And, you know, an exercise I take clients through that has miraculous results. You need to write down 2 lists and do a vision ritual. One is just an inventory of all the qualities of your future wife, girlfriend, partner. What is she like? You know, everything, including the senses, spiritual, emotional components, sexual components. Make an inventory, very left brain, but it's important. You need a checklist. And then right brain, more of the heart, you write her a love letter. So you write a letter to her expressing your love and your gratitude and your commitment and devotion and passion as if it's already happened. And you're writing her a letter as if she's reading it. And when you combine those rituals and you consistently stay with them, I mean, look out, because it's going to create a lot of energy in your life, and it will create results.
Oh, that is amazing. I love that you said that. And I also love that you said, love at first sight is very real, because these are all things that we've been, sort of led away from. And I guess that can work with women too, right?
100%.
Yeah. Awesome. So, okay. So let's say the man's ready. Now, where's he going to start? I mean, there's obviously physical places he can actually go, and there's online dating apps. Let's explore those and maybe any others that you can suggest.
Yeah, the place to start is, again, your community. So you need brotherhood, you need a men's circle, you need male friends. Women are attracted to men who are leaders and have other male companions, period. The lone wolf, the macho man that's on his own and doesn't need anyone, that's a myth of Hollywood. It's not real. A powerful man and a good partner is a leader in his community. It doesn't mean you need to do anything grandiose, but you need to be well connected, well resourced with other men. You know, men that have a lot of female friends only, this is usually not a great indicator of a man who's going to make a good partner for women. Even subconsciously, they can sense this. So that's the place to start before you even start dating. Now, obviously, in person is going to be the best. If you're into yoga, you're into wellness, you need to be in those kind of scenes. You're into workshops, personal development, business, entrepreneurship, you need to be in those kind of scenes, because that's the place you're going to meet a partner that would even be compatible with you. So the ideal place to meet someone is out at events, in tribe. Now, for a lot of people, maybe they live somewhere, there's no tribe. Where are all the good women? You know, I hear this all the time with men. You can go online. Now, if you're going to go on dating apps or dating websites, and, I audit people's profiles, and, I've studied a lot of this, and it's fascinating. I don't think it's the best place. It's definitely tier 2, but you can do it and it's great. But you need to be very intentional. That means professional photos, good headshots, professional, clean energy in your imagery. You need to have strong copy or what you're desiring. You need to express yourself, share your quirkiness, your humor, your unique essence, but also be very clear on what you're available for. If you're on these apps just swiping, trying to get hookups, it's very different if you're on these apps trying to actually date seriously. So you need to approach it in that way, and that's how your communication should be on your profile and in your chats.
Yeah, I love this. I'd like to expand on this more, because every couple of years I sort of dabble in the apps, and after a couple of weeks I'm like so disillusioned that it's because, okay, let's start with the photo. I love that you said professional photos, because I can say from a woman's point of view, and well, my point of view, I can't speak for all women, but seeing a man with his latest fish or standing in front of his car, that doesn't do well. The fishing, obviously, but standing in front of his car, I'm sort of thinking, is that all you've got to offer? Your flash car, what are we going to talk about? And so there's a lot with them, or there's the quirky selfie. And I'm sorry for laughing, but this is why I want to do this show, because the photo is so important. It's the first impression, right? So if you really want to attract a quality woman and show off your best, as you said, a professional photo or something out in nature, or expressing yourself is so important, isn't it? I'd say the most important part of the app. And then when you get into the description, here again, from my experience, on average, it's been, what I would consider to be severely lacking. It's sort of like as if they're just in this passive place, and then they complain that, like, where are all the good women? But So, okay, can we get more into the profile? And I know you said a few things, but can you give any specific examples of, how they might start this? Does it have to be lengthy? Because some men just don't want to write. Like, how do they get around this?
Yeah, I mean, each man's going to have to do this based on his strengths. If you're an artist, musician, you're creative, you're a businessman, you want to include something about that. On the photo side, usually I recommend you do a headshot or something very professional of your face that you feel is like putting your best foot forward. You also want to do a body shot, and you want to have photos of you doing what you love in community and tribe, your activities, hobbies, whatever. So those are the 3 types of photos you want to include. In your bio, you want to basically share who you are, what you desire, and what you're looking for. So you need to be very clear. Women are attracted to men who are confident and assertive and direct and clear. And that can be communicated, as soon as they see it. First impressions are worth 1,000, they're worth their weight in gold. Yeah. So you have to present yourself at your best while being authentic. Authenticity is going to be the way. If you're fronting and faking it, that's going to disappear on date 1 or in the chat. So you need to be real, and you need to be very discerning. For every 10 profiles you see, maybe only 1 is even possibly a compatible connection. So when you're looking at other profiles, you want to be very discerning, be very, not conservative, but very clear on, if they're not checking 51%, ideally 80, 90% of what your ideal partner would be, probably not worth your time and energy. Because this is what most clients complain about, is that the dating apps just waste a lot of their time. It's a dopamine casino of swiping and chatting and meeting, and it's not productive unless you take it very seriously and approach it with that discernment.
Yeah. And just one other thing that came to mind is, do you agree photos need to be recent?
Yeah, ideally. You don't want to be using photos from your high school reunion.
But even for men, maybe in their 40s or 50s, I often, they'll put in a photo that's a decade old, and then maybe when you meet the man, it's already an indication that, oh, hang on, you are hiding something, or, you're not presenting authentically. So just, again, from the women's perspective, I throw in, okay, so he's on the app, and he sees a profile that he's interested in that, ticks 80, 90% of his boxes. What's the next step?
Yeah, the next step is to initiate. Message her, start a conversation. Approach with confidence, but be light, and ask questions. As the masculine, you want to ask questions, be interested in her, do your research, look at what she's interested in, and create a genuine connection, create common ground, and make it about her. Don't start telling her about how awesome you are and how badass and how much money you make. Ask her questions. Very, very simple. Include a compliment, usually physical, but it can be about what she's into or her energy. And be direct. Tell her what you want. Tell her you're interested. Tell her you're attracted. And very quickly, that will let you determine whether this is worth taking off the app and maybe meeting in person or having a FaceTime. I always recommend having a FaceTime call, at least of audio call, before going on an in-person date, so you can actually feel the person's energy directly before meeting up with them.
Yeah, so good. I mean, my natural instinct would be, if he was asking me questions, to feel that I should reciprocate by asking him questions as well. How does that work? What if she's asking him questions? And feel free to tell me if that isn't feminine, but what's the balance there? So then I would be, I guess, taking him away from asking me questions and putting him on the the receiving end of responding.
Yeah, there's no clear-cut thing here. I mean, asking questions can be feminine if it's coming from a place of, openness and receptivity. I would say that the masculine usually should be asking 51% of the questions at the very least, because that's very much the masculine energy, is leading, inviting, and setting the container, setting the frame. And then the feminine can just share desire and flirt from that space of receiving. If the feminine is energetically penetrating in the conversation, for some women that might work if that's what they're into. But for a lot of women, you don't need to feel like you need to reciprocate. You can just receive and share. And that's actually how you're going to create polarity even before you meet as well.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. And I know we've got two streams here. We've got the one where you're meeting physically, but I think maybe we'll continue along the dating app and then maybe jump back to meeting someone physically in case it's different, if that's okay with you. Okay, so you're chatting away and you've done an audio call or video call and you want to meet her physically. How does that play out for the best success?
Yeah, so if there's genuine interest, she's responding to you, it feels good, there's a vibe, you need to set the date. So as the man, it's very simple. You get her number, you set a time and place. Ideally, you'd pick her up or, set up the logistics. So she doesn't have to do anything but show up in her radiance. So you want to pick a time and date, be very clear and specific, take her on the date, movie, hike, dinner, whatever, and you want to pay. And when you're there, you want to be on your best behavior and be very forthright with what you're available for, what you're attracted to, what you're interested in, and follow up from the themes or, things that emerge from your chat, and focus on creating safety and connection. Don't focus on the going for the first kiss or trying to escalate too soon. You just want to get to know the person genuinely. And in person, you can do that through touch, even a light touch on the shoulder, the arm, or like, really deep heart hug, greeting and leaving. And when you're in person and you're going out, be a gentleman, be a man that, will hold the door for her, pull out the chair for her, and be that, upright masculine force for the date. Because the way you show up on the first date is the way you're going to show up 20 years into marriage. It doesn't magically turn on later. So you need to show up on that date in that energy. And that's how you're really going to create success. And then I would recommend 1, 2, 3 dates before becoming physically intimate, if that's what you're desiring and that's what you're both consenting to and it feels good. Not to say that you can't do that on the first date if the fireworks are there, but genuinely you want to get to know the person first, ideally. And most women are going to crave that because they actually want to feel safe, because so many women have felt the opposite, right, in their dating.
Well, you've just done my next 10 questions in one answer. So can I backtrack and, expand on each of those? Okay, so asking out on the date. So you said, set a time and a place. Now, does he consult the woman as to when she's available?
Yeah,
or so how does that play
totally.
out? Like, what does he say to find out her availability?
Yeah, you can ask her what she's available for, what her schedule's like. Ideally, you want to give options, though. So the woman, if in her feminine, if she's really wanting a masculine man, it's like, hey, does Thursday at 7 work? Okay, no, how about Friday at 8? And you just be very direct and provide options instead of constantly putting the ball in her court to basically make the decision. Like, does this work? What do you like? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Where do you want to eat? Not such a great look, especially in the first impression.
Okay, so just to clarify, he keeps putting out the dates to see if she's available, and then he decides where they're going, and he picks her up, and she just has to be there ready for him to take out. Yeah, great. Okay, now paying for the date. This is a massive topic that I just really like for you to expand on, so people understand the energetics behind it, because we've been through it all, like some women think that if the man pays for the date, they feel that they owe him something. Some men think that if he pays for the date, that the woman owes him something. There's a lot of miscommunication here. So what is the direct masculine energetics around this?
Yeah, it's not clear cut. Everyone's going to have to find their own way to this. But, in the communities I've been a part of and with clients, when I poll women and ask these questions, most women are like, if the man doesn't pay for the date or wants to split the bill, they're very unlikely to go on a date with him again. And that's because masculine provision is one of the core things that's going to create polarity and create connection. Now, if the woman absolutely wants to pay, that's okay. That just may be a friendship. It may be a business connection or a networking thing. That can be a path to the friend zone, unfortunately, for a lot of people. and there's ways to do this that are not awkward by being very direct and authentic. Like, hey, I want to pay for this. I want to pay for this experience, the movie, the dinner, and with no expectation of reciprocation, just as a gift and as a masculine holding the space for that date, for that intimate connection. And that can be clear. You can just say that. You don't need to keep it in the shadow and pretend that there's some weird transaction happening, because there doesn't need to be. And as the women that struggle with that are practicing receptivity. And for a lot of women, this can be vulnerable because they're used to that strong, independent narrative of the strong, independent woman who doesn't need no man to pay for her. And she's a point of pride that she makes her own money and she can pay. But even women I know that are 6-7-figure earners who are very successful financially still love when a man pays for them, because it's primal.
What about the men that say, I've had 10 first dates, I've always paid, and it feels to them like well, some might see it as a waste of money, but some might also see it as a financial strain. And maybe you just think they're not getting anywhere with it, that when they are maybe restricted financially.
Yeah. And this is, each man's going to have to find their way to this. But if you're going on a lot of dates and paying for all of them, yeah, that could be straining on your income. So that's where discernment comes in. You need to be very clear about who you're dating and why. If it's not a fuck yes and the date doesn't feel good, maybe you do split the bill, and that's not a connection to pursue, and it can be a friendship or just a casual connection. And you got to make that call. Most men, if they are capable, will do this and have success. And that's what will escalate the connection, because on date 2, 3, 4, 5, then you can, start to really get to know each other, feel the comfort and safety of the connection, and then pursue intimacy more. And if you are dating multiple women at once, this becomes more difficult. So that's just part of, being a man and being in integrity, is you have to be clear on what you're there for. Are you there just to date? Are you there just to do the thing? Or are you actually pursuing a goal and have a clear vision of what you want out of a relationship?
Yeah, let's talk about dating multiple women, because I don't know, and I know this is what I want to understand about men, because for women personally, I think we're different, because for me, I can only ever have feelings for one man at a time. But I have heard this about men, to date multiple women at a time and then decide, which one. Is that what you suggest men to do? Or if there's only one, to focus on one? How does that play out?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the man. For a lot of men, if they're high quality men and they have, a lot of vision, they're attractive, they're confident, they're just always going to have options. Same for high quality women. Now, do you want to pursue a bunch of those options at once? Maybe. It can be a spreading of your energy, which can, dilute the power of one connection. Usually there's one that's more attractive to you than the others. So maybe the focus move would be to focus on that connection instead of spreading yourself thin. And that's what I recommend people that I work with when they're dating, is to focus on the connection that feels the most powerful. A lot of people will self-sabotage and actually avoid the connection that they know is compatible and deep, because they're actually afraid of intimacy on some level. And this can be subconscious. So this one's tough, because if you do have a lot of options, a lot of attractive, beautiful, potential partners, you can get kind of caught up in that and like in the excitement of it, which is amazing for a season. But eventually you're going to want to pare that down. And I would recommend 1 to 3 dates at a time max, where you're pursuing those people, talking with them, deepening, meeting up in person.
That's interesting what you said about, subconscious fear of that intimacy, which is different from sex, right? Can you expand on that? And how would a man recognize that and overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to do the inside job, the inner work of shadow work, and you're going to need accountability, brotherhood, mentorship, some kind of practice or discipline to even unearth that stuff is happening, so you can actually see it, because a lot of it's just under the hood. You won't ever see it with your conscious mind, even though it's running the show. If you are breadcrumbing, if you're ghosting, If you feel a connection getting intimate and intense, and then you just take too much space or like pull away from it, might be something to look at. You know, it's based on your attachment style. Are you more avoidant, or are you more anxious attached? Are you insecure or secure attached? Are you disorganized attached? You know, there's all that stuff and the science behind that. The childhood traumas and how you related to your own mother is going to also color how you're relating to the women now. You can be sure that some of that's running the show if the connection's going really well, and then you say something or do something that you're like, wait, why did I say that? Like, why did I just ruin that date or ruin that phone call? And it's usually because something's in there trying to protect you. Basically, there's a part of you that's like, we have to stop this connection from going deeper, because if it goes deeper, then we'd have to show them who we really are and connect with them, right? And so you got to really be seeing that, and you're only going to see that with mirrors. So that means other people you're sharing with, you're intimate with, you're being vulnerable with, they can help you point that out and help you see your blind spots.
Yeah, that like self-sabotage, right? Being aware of it. Well, I love that you brought up ghosting as well. I mean, again, from my perspective, it has happened a couple of times, and as much as it hurts, it's like, to me, it's a fearful way of responding. Like, to me, the courteous way, I'd rather hear I'm sorry, I'm not into you, than ghosting. Like, can you please talk men through this if you agree with me? And if they're not interested in someone, or they want to break a connection, what is the mode of highest integrity that they can go about that?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. The most high integrity move is to just state your intention clearly. If you don't want to pursue the connection, if you're not attracted, it's not working, tell them, and tell them with respect. Respect is the key. A lot of men and women ghost just because they don't want to feel the feelings of rejection or having to reject someone, because it's intense. It can bring up emotion. It most certainly will for most people. So ghosting is just a cop-out. You're just avoiding the confrontation. And in an age of, cell phones and instant connectivity through the internet, it's so easy to just communicate on a phone call or a FaceTime or in person. Ideally, can send a text or email, although it's more classy to actually do it face to face. It's so easy to just break the connection and just be like, oh, sorry, I'm busy, or just not ever respond, which is, it's very immature, and it's not a great way to treat other people. Because if you respect other human beings, even if you're not attracted to them and don't want to date them, they're still a person with thoughts and feelings, and you need to have that. It's just a basic level of like common courtesy.
Yeah, because at some point, we had a connection, right? It's like, it's so, again, yeah. And I think most women would rather hear a no, as much as it hurts at the time. The man has been direct. He's stated his intention. It's up to us to deal with our feelings. And if we're on our healing journey, we're aware now that, he has the freedom to do what he's want. And we're not going to be asking a million questions. We're just going to respect that and then deal with our own emotions around that as a woman. Okay, what else have we got? So yeah, I've got all that. Okay, good. All right, so yeah, so we was talking about dating multiple women. Let's bring into the conversation polyamory and monogamy. What are your thoughts around that? And also, is it a matter of levels of consciousness? Like, can a man be in his masculine, let's say evolved, and be polyamorous? How does all that play out?
I mean, the short answer is yes. I've never seen a long-term, deeply committed devotional relationship that maintains polyamory without some level of drama or musical chairs happening. Not to say it doesn't exist. I hear testimonies from people that it does exist. I've never personally experienced it on my own when I experimented with that years back, and with people I know in connection with me. But I'm just one man, so I support people to express themselves however they want. The issue with polyamory in the new age community and the festival culture, and even now in like the tech and entrepreneur world, is very popular for swinging and polyamory or non-monogamy and all this. the problem with it is that, most men and women just having one partner, there's already a lot going on, right? A lot of emotions, traumas to deal with, the drama of just day-to-day life. That's just part of being human. It's sacred. It's beautiful. But that's already a lot to deal with. Now you add another partner. Now you add another partner. You add all these other moving pieces, and then it becomes a full-time job of processing the emotions, creating safety, staying in integrity, navigating the constantly shifting agreements between, who's sleeping with who, who's connected to who, what's the hierarchy. It's just naturally forming, and it's part of being human. It's part of being a social animal. Not to say you can't manage that and practice it, but just know what you're getting into. A lot of people for polyamory, they go into it just because they want to have exploration and experiences and discovery, which is amazing. I support that. As long as you do it with consent, boundaries, and integrity, you can do that. The problem is when people get into that lifestyle, it can be a bypass of intimacy. Because if you don't want to go deep with one person, you can just go to another person or another partner. And what I often find, I have a lot of clients that are coming out of polyamory and realizing how much trauma it actually caused them. And it breaks my heart to hear these stories about, infidelity and essentially cheating, but under the guise of polyamory, where actually the person wanted to exit the relationship. So they decided to open it and then later just mate switch to the new mate, and doing it without a lot of care for the person's heart that they were connected with. For other people, it's just a glorified version of hookup culture, which no shame in that. If that's what you want to do, hey, go nuts. I'm a bohemian libertarian kind of guy. I'm like, fucking go nuts. The problem is the emotional damage that happens, and then other people have to deal with that. So if you're not highly developed in shadow work, emotional communication, emotional intelligence, intimacy tools, aftercare, consent conversations, direct honesty, you have no business having multiple partners and doing that kind of work. You're going to cause more damage that way. And so people don't realize how much fire they're playing with. There are strong communities around kink, BDSM, and poly that are around the world that I know of. And, some of them do a really good job by creating those boundaries, creating a really safe place for people's hearts and emotions when you're relating that way. So I would recommend finding those communities, humbling yourself, learning the ropes, and not taking that on lightly.
Yeah, it sounds like a full-time job.
It can be.
And if a man is focused on his mission, does he really have time for all that?
Good question.
So yeah, interesting. But yeah, it's definitely good to explore and ask questions around, because that avoidance of intimacy, to me, I mean, I haven't explored that scene, but to me, as an outlooker looking in, I would see it as easy to avoid intimacy, and whether they can admit that or not is another thing. Like, and what happens with what you said about this sort of leaky energy, what we were saying in the beginning about the hookup culture and not containing your energy as a conscious, aware man? How does that work with polyamory?
I mean, energetically, you're crossing a lot of wires and it can get messy. So if you're sexually intimate with multiple partners and you're emotionally connecting with them, that's creating cords of energy and attachments. If you can manage multiple attachments, that's possible. Kings of old, it's in the Bible. King Solomon had 100 wives and like 500 concubines. Now he was a king. He had unlimited wealth, resources, and influence. So he might have had the energy and time and setup that could support that. I don't know. I wasn't there. Is it even real? Who knows? That's a very different mindset than your average guy who's dealing with finances, bills, his purpose, body training, vision, and then dealing with the hearts of multiple women who are constantly changing and wanting more connection, wanting more intimacy and trust. And to navigate all that, it's going to be tough. And if you're not navigating it well, then you will leak sexually. If you're favoring one partner, you're sexually experiencing multiple types of partners, it's going to be hard, not impossible, but it's going to be a challenge to contain your energy and stay in that clean integrity of the masculine, because lust and sexual experiences can get you really riled up. It's stimulating the same parts of the brain that cocaine and heroin are. You're constantly getting variety, you're constantly getting new experiences, and it's just going to put you in hard mode to stay on your vision and purpose and create safety for multiple women. I know there's men out there that do this and celebrate it, and more power to them. For the average person, if you can't master one relationship, you should probably start there before going to this.
I love that. Great advice. Let's look at, many of the women probably have children, so let's look at that. If a man's, taken a woman out on a few dates and she does have children, how does he start to incorporate that if he's looking at a long-term relationship with her?
Yeah, it's a big conversation between them. They need to be really honest. The mother needs to be honest about her needs. Does she want to bring in a father figure? Is she open to a committed relationship? If the children are part of the package, what does that look like? For the man entering that, you need to be very clear around, are you willing to be a father to those children? You're not their actual biological dad, but you're going to be a father figure. And so that needs to be on the table from day one if you're dating in that sense.
And of course, on the other side, the men have got children too. So, and so you're saying from day one, like how, okay, so you're out at a lovely restaurant and you're eating, how do you start approaching that subject without, sort of the man getting scared and it's like, whoa, you're already talking about, co-parenting.
I mean, it's not necessarily about that. Like, hey, if you're going to date me, you got to co-parent my kids. It's more about like bringing that up. Like, hey, just so you know, like I have 2 kids and, I'm not on good terms with their father and, I'm a single mom hustling, whatever. That needs to be in the field. Now, obviously take time, years, months, whatever, to date without including that family dynamic and see if you're even a good fit for each other and if a relationship's going to form naturally. But to avoid it and to pretend it's not there, or even worse, not tell them, which, I mean, you'd be shocked at how many people I've talked to where they learn only later, months in, that the person has kids. Just honesty is going to be the best policy there.
Yeah, I would think that, would come up at least as a question on the first date, do you have kids anyway, so yeah, I guess that's a good lead in. Great. Going back to intimacy now, I know a lot of people talk about this, and I guess, if you agree or not, that a man, when he's going into intimacy in that vulnerable state, once he has opened his heart a bit and been vulnerable, he'll often withdraw then and take some space for himself before he can, recharge and maybe go back in for more intimacy. Can you explain, especially to the women watching and also to men, so they understand the process that they might be going through, how this dynamic plays out?
Yeah, it's very common for the masculine after a big expansion, a vulnerability hangover, or a big sexual experience to want to have a contraction. It's very natural. It's physics. The key is to do it with intention and to do it with communication. So like for myself, for example, I need a lot of space. I thrive in alone time. I recharge alone. I mean, I'm an ambivert. I can do both. But if I'm with my partner too much, or I'm out in community too much, and I'm not taking time for myself, I just get thrown off. I'm not regulated. And this is why the man cave or the gentleman's study has been part of us, since ancient times. Men need space to recharge alone with other men or with nature. And the feminine partner needs to understand that. And there needs to be communication around it. You don't have to ask for permission or get mommy's okay, but you need to communicate, hey, I'm taking space. I need this. I'm not abandoning you. Here's the plan for when we're going to reconnect. Here's the next date or experience, especially early on. The more you can just be vulnerable and transparent while also claiming your needs and what you want, you're going to be fine. And then the woman can, deal with that in her own way. Because for women also, some women need that. Women often recharge in community with other women and nature as well. So she'll also need to go and do her stuff to, get back to your center before connecting and merging again, right? Especially early on.
Yeah, and this is where maybe those attachment styles come in because, again, speaking for myself, it can be seen as if I love how you suggested or you said, look, just communicate it. Let them know that, you'll see them next week or it's not, you just need some space. It's not, anything personal, because it's often that not knowing then that brings out well, I know the vulnerability in us, and unless someone is very healed and can, just really sit in that space of unknown, it often leads to the woman then penetrating by, sending more messages or wanting to know answers. And yeah, what advice while we're here have you got for women that are sitting in that space of maybe he hasn't communicated that he just needs the space, and you'll catch up next week? How do we navigate that space of unknown?
Yeah. As the feminine, check in, express your desire. Like, hey, I'd at least appreciate a good morning and good night text, or I just want to know that, this connection is still alive. Send that message. That's okay. Don't double send though, and start double texting and calling and entering that needy, anxious energy, because that's just going to push him away more if he's already feeling like he needs space. Now, if he doesn't communicate his need for space and he's signaling to you by his inaction or lack of communication, you have your answer. He may not be ready to continue the connection. And so you need to take ownership of your feelings around that. It's not about him and how he's acting, it's how you're receiving it as the feminine. So a lot of women would do well, instead of double texting and stressing or being anxious over a man not talking to them after a powerful date or experience, is to, go within, do your rituals, go with other women, and trust that if the connection's meant to be and he said what he's going to do, that he will do it. And if he doesn't, then you have your answer.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough place to be in. But yeah, this is what us women have to do our work around, not filling the space just with the man, that, having enough of our own passions and, creativity and, what we can fill our life with. Let's talk about, while we're at it, and I think we can get quite deep into this, these attachment styles. So could you please give us the expanded version of each so that we can really understand, please, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination of different attachment styles and attachment theory. I forget the gentleman who kind of came up with this and sketched it out. And obviously there's updates to it all the time. There's many more than this, but the basic archetypes are anxious, avoidant, secure, insecure, and disorganized. So they can combine, right? You can be anxious, insecure. You can be avoidant, secure, attached. You can be disorganized, secure, so they combo with each other. But anxious attachment is kind of the poor me victim. Like, they're very needy. They need a lot of connection. They need reassurance and validation. They might go into those shadow patterns of trying to get the connection. This is often seen with the feminine, although many, many masculine embody this too. Avoidant usually attracts anxious, and avoidant is very much like ghosting, moving away, needing space, not being as connected, needing to push away or to gain distance to come back to self. And this can be with or without communication. Obviously, there's shadow patterns involved here. Tends to be more masculine, although there's many, many women that embody it as well. Secure attachment is just that. You're securely attached. And this is based on, all of this is based on age 0 to 7 in your attachment with your parents. Attachment is not a bad thing. Buddhism says we should get rid of all attachments, but it's impossible in this life. If you have a body, you have attachments. You're attached to the earth, other people, the elements. You need sustenance and you need people. You need connection. So attachment's healthy. It's just we want to be secure, not insecure most of the time. Secure attached people trust. They have intimacy. They're vulnerable. They hold to their word. They have integrity, and they trust the connection, even if there's distance, can still be strengthened, and there's communication. Insecure attachment is the doubting, the nagging, the anxiety, grief, and scanning for something wrong. And so insecure attachment will often create self-sabotage and a lot of issues. Now, disorganized attachment's the interesting one, which is much rarer, which is basically like your parents were very inconsistent. So they were there and they love bombed you and loved you up and you did a bunch of stuff, or they were completely gone and completely abandoning and rejecting. And sometimes that becomes so intense for really traumatized people that the disorganized forms, where they want the connection and they don't know when it's going to be there, but then when it's there, they want to push it away because they're afraid of being abandoned. So disorganized, on very subtle levels in the nervous system shows up as very inconsistent communication, very disorganized, dysregulated nervous system, and the inability to express needs, because you actually don't even know what you want in the moment, because it's like a push-pull interaction. And so disorganized people will just need a lot of consistency to create safety for intimacy.
So is secure attached the one that we're all aiming for? Are the others part of the wounding and the healing journey to come into secure attachment, or can there be healthy relationships around those other attachments apart from secure?
Yeah, ideally, like any of them can be secure in that you are, doing your best to be in the trust and intimacy, and you're communicating it well. So, like for example, myself, I'm more avoidant, secure attached. So I still have the avoidant patterns, but with communication and the secure trust most of the time. So that's fine. A lot of people will fall on the spectrum of avoidant or anxious. You can be anxious, secure attached. So you might need more connection, and there might be a little bit of neediness, but with the secure attachment and doing your work, it's very manageable. It actually can be endearing and sweet. It's not a problem. You can even be disorganized, securely attached, and that your pattern, and there's that real need for consistency, but you can create security with that. So it's not about getting rid of these. You're going to have your imprints and what you came in this life with. Often they're also your greatest strengths because they forced you to grow and adapt. So it's really about accepting and loving yourself at the end of the day and navigating these things.
Yeah, great. Are you into the archetypes?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go through those, please? The main masculine archetypes. And, if we can expand into each, we've got about half an hour left. I don't want anything to be left out, but I mean, what needs to be said around the archetypes so men can understand the journey that they're going through?
Yeah, I love the classic 4 archetypes, which is expanded by Jung and others. The famous book by Moore and Gillette, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. These are kind of the 4 quadrants of the masculine psyche. You have King at the top, which is the embodied visionary, the leader, the clear voice of speech and sovereignty. You have the Magician, which is the architect, the technologist, the mystic, the one who is great with technology in the unseen world. Also the initiator of men. You have the warrior, which is the classic disciplined, assertive, go-getter, getting shit done, handling business, a guardian, a protector, a quester. And you have the lover, which is the artist, the performer, the loving father, the brotherly energy, and the deep intimacy and lover of life, all things life-giving. And so you can see all these in the King Arthur myth, right? Like King Arthur is obviously the king. You have Merlin, the magician. You have Lancelot, the warrior. And then you have, Guinevere, or even some would say Galahad, the lover. And so there's this deep ingrained, you can use whatever names you want. Some people don't resonate with those. They think there's like 20 archetypes. They think there's only one. And that's fine. You got to find what works for you. But these are some of the core archetypes for the masculine. And most men are on a hero's journey developing those. Usually king or magician develops much later in life. Usually warrior can develop first, or lover for a lot of men, and they kind of evolve through this in their relationship to their purpose, mission, and the feminine.
Yeah. So ultimately, do they integrate all 4 of them to be?
Ideally.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And how would a man recognize if you'd reached that pinnacle? And, I believe that we never stop growing and developing. What happens after you have embodied all 4?
Yeah, that man wouldn't really recognize it. He would be recognized for it. Right. So the great men of our ages, the sovereign, powerful leaders, the Yeshuas, the Platos, the Lao Tzus, these guys integrated a lot of it and became these master teachers, or these, real servants of life and humanity. And so a man in his, in his elder years and his maturity that's embodied all 4 will be, he'll be a leader of men. There's just no way around it, because he's going to be super powerful in all 4. And usually these are great business, national, or movement leaders. Other men will just specialize in one and perfect it. We have Elon Musk, who, say what you will, the guy's a master magician. He's a technologist at the highest level, and he's attained massive influence through that. So he kind of perfected magician. I don't know if I'd want him as a king, and he's probably not that great of a warrior. You could ask his wife about how good of a lover he is. I'm sure he's got all those too, but He's gone all in on magician, for example. You have pro athletes like Usain Bolt, Tom Brady. They've gone all in on warrior. They've reached the pinnacle of the physical mastery and skill. And that's beautiful. You have other men who are great artists, poets, lovers, romantics that are great lover archetypes, that are spreading their joy and their passion for life. And they've really mastered that one. So for a lot of men, they will specialize. The goal is to integrate all of them. But it's not easy and it's not common. So it's definitely a journey we're all on till our last breath.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Let's on the subject of chivalry, which maybe because of it's been a few generations now, maybe since the 50s when, most men were taught, chivalry, how to treat women like that. Can we, I mean, you mentioned before, pulling the lady's chair out on a date or opening the door for her. I mean, what about things like, do you suggest a man always open the car door? Let's talk about what else can you suggest around chivalry?
Yeah, things like opening the door, or like holding the umbrella, or paying for dinner, pulling out the chair. It's very practical, simple stuff that can be a form of chivalry and gentlemanlyhood. Very simple stuff. Always do you have to do that? No, but if you're really, loving and clear and intentional, why wouldn't you? It's kind of my mindset around it. Chivalry and being a gentleman and being a good man is much more about your own internal compass and integrity. So if you're driven to give to life and be creative, be loving, be a strong, disciplined force in the world as the masculine, you're just naturally going to embody those tenets, right? The knights had the chivalrous code, the samurai had the code of Bushido. Zen masters have their own koans and sutras. Every tradition has a code that they live by, and this is core to the masculine. So chivalry is just one version of that.
It's fascinating. And are there any others? Like, what about, is it still, considered relevant that a man walks on the inside, like closest to the road when you're on the footpath? Things like that, things that people might not even be aware of. Are there any others that you can suggest for men to do? So we've got pull the chair out, open door, open car door, hold the umbrella. I love that one. Walk on the closest to the road.
Yeah. I mean, I was raised in Texas in the south of the US, so this is all just common Southern gentleman stuff. So it's very natural to me, but I get that some people aren't as into that. Paying for the bill is another one. Choosing the restaurant, booking the thing. You be the one on the phone call. You be the one that answers the door. You be the one that lets her go first if there's a vulnerable situation, stuff like that. It's very intuitive. It's very natural. The protective instinct in the masculine in a vacuum without culture and all the propaganda out there about there's no differences between men and women. If you take all that away, which is just really loud minority, men will instinctively do this naturally. It's completely normal.
Interesting. Maybe in Texas, not so much in Australia.
I know a lot of upright Aussie lads, so I know they do exist.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Yeah. And I know they do. Yes. And, it's up to us women that when, often a man will hold the door open for me, not anyone that I'm, physically even know, a stranger. And it's up to us to be gracious and smile and say thank you and receive it. As you said, it's that's very important for us to do as women. Wow. Is there anything we've left out, Kevin, that needs to be brought into this conversation? You are a machine, and I've maybe run out of questions.
Well, I'm really grateful for you, Gemma. I mean, this stuff is exciting to me, and this is my dharma as a man, is to share this information and be a bard, be a storyteller and philosopher is how I see myself on these topics, because they need to be spoken to and they need to be reinvigorated in the culture. This is why so many people are struggling right now. This is why so many people feel lost, is because the bonds between masculine and feminine and the internal power of the masculine and feminine has really been dampened and confused for a while. And so if we're going to get our shit together in the 2020s, this decade, the soaring 20s, we need to figure this stuff out. We need to work on it. So I think it's really important. And I'm so grateful and thankful that people like you, Gemma, are spreading the word and gathering tribe and providing places like this where we can have these conversations, which are very important.
Yeah, and I must say, Kevin's got and Zach have got a great group, the Polarity Dojo, right, on Facebook. We'll put the link, and I know they run master classes, and often they're free. And I know you did one last weekend on the dark masculine and feminine, which I loved. So I just want to thank you for doing that, and so much creating so much conversation within that Facebook group. Do you want to touch on, for people that maybe have got a misunderstanding of, or not being aware of what this dark and masculine and feminine is? Because as you said, it doesn't necessarily correlate with something that's unhealthy.
Yeah, the dark is not the same as the shadow, and the dark is not the same as bad or evil. The dark masculine and the dark feminine, you can just view it as the primal instinctual essence of our being, right? You can look at it as the lower centers, fight, flight, fuck, freeze, the deep internal stuff that in the unconscious, in the dark, without the light of our consciousness, can become very shadowy and swampy and then lash out in traumatic ways. Men need to be connected to their dark masculine, their assertive, powerful potential as predators in the animalistic sense, not in the perpetrator sense of, your ancestors were hunters. They were soldiers and warriors. They weren't, pansies. Someone breaks in your house in the middle of the night and your wife and children are there. You need to be able to access the dark masculine. You need to be able to say fuck no and physically defend with your body. And so that's kind of the dark power. In relationships, this is why the good guys finish last. And the Hollywood phrase is because the women will leave a man who's stuck in their light, which light doesn't, again, it doesn't mean good and holier than thou. Light just means the conscious, nice, those kind of qualities, which in the shadow, they become people pleaser and too nice. The light masculine is also very powerful. They're either co-equal. They need to be integrated. The light masculine is that visionary protector, the father figure, the beautiful leadership in the masculine of vision and problem solving and the consciousness light. But if he's not connected to his dark, it may not be such a great bedroom companion because he's not able to, pin you to the bed and really take you and claim you with that strong energy. And so a lot of women are craving this. And likewise in women, men are craving women connected to their dark feminine, the seductress, the slut, the whore, which these words have been bastardized and demonized. But the word whore in Latin just means womb. It doesn't mean a salacious woman. It just means the womb. It's a woman connected to her erotic power and her erotic innocence and Shakti. So women that are connected to their dark feminine and embody it, connected to their light feminine, the maiden, the mother, the nurturer, the giver, the compassionate oracle, they become the best lovers. They become the best leaders. It's not just in romance and sexuality. This is same for people in business, sales, marketing, creativity. You have to be able to pull from both sides. You can't play cards with half a deck. And so the dark masculine feminine gets demonized and has been shamed by the church and governments for thousands of years because that's where a lot of the power is. The power is in your balls. It's in your ovaries. It's in your cock. It's in your womb. It's not up here in a fancy idea or concept about some cool stuff. It's physically in the body. It's very primal.
Yeah, and that's, of course, as you said, religion has attacked that so strongly because of its power. I love what you said about and yeah, what you just said, and also, could you explain to men, because a lot of men go in thinking they have to people please around women, but the woman ultimately wants a man she can't control, correct?
Ideally, yeah.
And who is, what's the word, it's like what, how do they say, it's has the potential to be dangerous but isn't. Can you
Yeah.
explain these concepts to men that maybe will help them step more into their authenticity and not around their programs, what they think women want?
Yeah. I mean, Jordan Peterson has the famous quote, who you know, I adore. I think he's an amazing man, and I'm so grateful for him holding the torch for so many of us. He's basically like, yeah, a dangerous man is a man who is capable of violence and danger, but chooses not to. That's a safe man and powerful man. A man who claims there's no danger, no dark, that's the man you need to watch out for, because that means his capacity for violence and aggression is in the unconscious and it's in the shadow. He doesn't think he has it. He's playing out the holier than thou ego game. Very dangerous, right? All the tyrants and genocidal rampages in history were done in the name of the greater good, and by denying that there's these evil qualities. Meanwhile, they're putting people into camps or going to war. So we can see this in history. The lessons of history around the masculine are very clear, because unfortunately there's been a lot of tyrants running around for thousands of years. The good king, like King Arthur, for example, can cut your fucking head off. He'll run you through if you try to challenge his family or try to harm his people. But he chooses not to 99% of the time, because he leads from the synex. The synex is the opposite of the tyrant in Latin. It's the wise king. But he still has to be capable of it and powerful. And this is what women want. If a man is at a bar and slaps your woman's ass or grabs her breast, she doesn't want a good guy man that's going to try to talk to him. Like, a strong man is going to put his hands on that man. You know, he's going to get a fisticuff, because you don't do that. That's a disrespectful thing. Now, obviously, that's an extreme example. We want to avoid violence at all costs, because it's just not a great move. But women crave men they can't control, because what's a man you can control? That's a dependent. That's your son. Okay, you can control a man. Where's the fun in that? And would you want to surrender and trust that man to lead you sexually, financially, holistically? Probably not. So a lot of men that are stuck in that mindset of being fully deferent to the feminine, fully disempowered with the feminine, these are the men that end up in loveless marriages or sexless relationships. And, you know, unfortunately and fortunately, I get to work with a lot of those men and help them kind of reclaim some of their fighter, that fuck energy, the ability to say no and hold boundaries, which is paradoxically what women crave, tempered by attunement and consciousness, of course, and the heart.
Exactly. And, you know, even though we might not get what we want, secretly we enjoy, as long as it's done in a healthy way, right? That, you know, they have maybe prioritized their mission or something, you know, they don't give us everything that we ask for. And subconsciously, I guess, you know, I'm not talking about manipulation, but, you know, we will to some extent test them to feel safe, you know, like, you know, I don't know, I want to spend time with you. And, you know, he's obviously, you know, going to prioritize his mission. Of course, there's healthy mediums, you know, as to the balance there, but it's definitely something for men to be aware of, and women, you know, to really step into that healthy masculinity of not having to please a woman, and understanding that giving a woman everything she wants will not get him respect.
That's it. It's all about respect. It works the other way too. Men don't want just a good girl. You know, Freud famously unearthed this in his work with these Viennese housewives doing psychoanalysis of the whore and Madonna complex. So the Madonna is the good mother, the maiden, the goddess, and the whore is obviously the erotic, powerful energy of a woman who's hard to control and is very embodied in her sexuality, which is what men crave, which is why so many men will cheat or go to porn, because that's how they're accessing that feminine archetype. And a lot of women have become people pleasers or have been shamed for their sexuality. And so they get stuck in that other side of the feminine, the more light, disempowered feminine, and the victim. And men crave a woman who knows what she wants and is sexually expressed in her desire, but can still receive and be led by the masculine. So this is a big part of modern dating and the new age community that gets lost and demonized. And meanwhile, when you are off stage or, you know, out of the Facebook comments where people are ranting and virtue signaling, and you get behind closed doors, you get on a phone call, you get someone in a vulnerable situation, everybody wants the same thing. They want this balance, they want that contrast, and that's what's going to create intimacy and success in dating.
Such a minefield, but such a beautiful journey, you know, just to come into this awareness of masculine and feminine dynamics. And It's really important. So I'm so grateful for, people like you who are doing this work. It's really incredible and helping so many relationships. And now hopefully through this conversation, encouraging men who maybe, have been hesitant to step out into the dating field and start exploring again. How does a man deal with rejection? Like, what tips have you got? Because that's obviously something that getting back into the dating scene, unless you're, incredibly, I guess, fortunate. I don't like the word lucky, but you're going to hit walls of rejection. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, rejection and, getting rejected or broken up with can be the greatest teachers in your life. They were definitely for me. It's what set me on this path. It's not something anyone would choose because it is painful. It hurts the ego. There's no way around it. You can't bypass being rejected. But the best way to take it is to take it and to feel it. Take it on the chin. Understand that it's not about you only. It is about you because something about you is incompatible to that woman. So you're getting rejected. Hopefully she does it in a kind way or a respectful way. It sucks if she's, frankly, going to be a bitch about it. And that happens. And that's where you have to do your inner work. Take it on the chin, understand that spirit, or if you believe in God or something else guiding your life, it's a redirection. You got to transmute rejection to redirection. If you're getting rejected, you have your answer. That's not a path to pursue. The men that really break my heart, and I've worked with some, are the ones that, despite rejection, keep chasing. And that's that unrequited love that can be so painful. So the way to deal with rejection is to feel it, feel the anger, feel the sadness, get support from other men, get loved up by your community, understand that it doesn't make you unworthy of love, dust yourself off, get back in the saddle. That's how you deal with it.
Love it. And you brought up unrequited love, which is something different, I guess. What advice have you got for men that, have just got their heart set on one woman and she's shown that she's not interested? How does he get past that?
Yeah, this is a tough one. And this was something I experienced a lot too early in my journey, which was extremely painful. And that is you need to pick up the phone, receive the message, and then put the phone down. You don't keep the phone to your ear after the phone call is done. You had a connection, you expressed your desire clearly. Now, maybe you didn't express it clearly enough, which is why she's friend zoning you or ghosting. So make sure you've sent the message, sent the signal. But if it comes back a negative, you need to accept that. So the problem with unrequited love is a lack of acceptance and living in like an illusory reality or a distorted reality tunnel where you're thinking that, well, maybe if I just do this, then she'll see me or then she'll date me. And there's only so far you can take that. So a lot of men need to understand that they have options. If you build your frame, you build your finances, your friends, your fitness, your power, your confidence, you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of potential partners in your lifetime. In one lifetime, you'll meet that many women if you're really putting yourself out there. So getting hung up on one, not such a great plan.
So good. Oh, I had a question. I've forgotten it now. Oh, wow. It was a good one too. Okay. Um, oh, oh, yes. Okay, that was it. So, from a woman's point of view, while we're here, what is the kind, I mean, you said for men, if they're not interested in a woman, to be direct and say it. What's the feminine way of of us letting a man know that we're not interested?
Yeah, you got to be very clear. A lot of women get into trouble, and this is also where, unfortunately, things like date rape and assault happen, is because a woman will say, "Hey, I'm just not that into you, but let's still connect." Like they try to let him down easy with good intentions, but they keep the door open. So they keep connecting, they friend zone him, they might even hang out with him alone. And then when he goes in for the kiss or tries to be physical, they're confused. Well, it's because you haven't actually told him no. You told him maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So as a woman, you need to be very clear with respect and kindness, but direct. You need to be fucking direct. Say, hey, I'm not interested in you in that way. I'm not available for a sexual relationship. Here's why. You don't need to explain yourself, but let him know why you're feeling that way on some basic level. And then act in a way, which means stop texting late at night, stop calling, stop hanging out alone, that reflects that. And if you actually do want to pursue a friendship and that feels good, transition the relationship. Don't keep talking and acting in that way. And so a lot of women struggle with this because they're afraid of hurting people's feelings. And there's no way to avoid it. You're going to hurt his feelings. So just do it and get it over with respect.
What do you say to those men who have been friend zoned, but are secretly, as you said, hoping that if they just do something different, that she might fall for them? Do you see, like, are you saying that they should leave those friendships? What's the best way to navigate that if they're, ultimately hoping that something would change, but settling for friendship?
I have seen it happen where a man stays in the friend zone long enough and basically woos or courts the woman and gets her in the end. It does happen. I wouldn't recommend it though. It's a huge time sink and energy sink. It's often very self-deprecating, and it's just not a good look as a man if you want to live in integrity to act in that way. Because if you received a no, take the no and then treat her as a friend, or maybe take space. A lot of men will stay in a friend zone space instead of just, ending the connection because of their fear of loneliness or their fear of loss, and maybe secretly hoping that it'll shift. So you need to just be clear. Here's friends, here's dates, here's your brotherhood, here's girlfriends that can still be fun and you could hang out with, but are you hanging out with them alone and taking them on dates? No. And if you're still trying to do that, you need to do some inner work and be like, what's going on here? Why am I doing this? What am I trying to get? Why am I trying to create this connection when it's clear that it's not in alignment?
And before we wrap up, Kevin, you did touch on it before, what women might like in the bedroom. Now, a lot of men have watched a lot of porn, are getting their understanding of what women want based on porn. So can you give the men watching some tips or some insights into, is that a distortion, and what do women really want?
The age-old question, what do women want? It's actually not that hard. Women want love. They want to be loved. They want to be seen. They want to be valued and cherished. They want intimacy. It's very simple. Ask a woman. If I ask you, you'd probably say your own version of that. It's very simple. We've solved the question, men. Now you have to face the answer. A lot of men get stuck in the question, but then they have, and myself included, I'm working on myself. I'm an ordinary man. I haven't figured this shit out. You have to face the answer now. How do you show up for a woman in that way? Now, in the bedroom, what you have to realize about porn, and there's some harrowing documentaries out there if you're really into this or you're overcoming that addiction. I'd recommend you really look at what you're doing. It's like discovering your food has been factory farmed, because most porn, now there is ethical porn. There's porn that's made in a loving way with real couples, and it's not fake. That exists. And if you're gonna go into erotica and porn, that's what you should be doing. And whatever. I don't judge people who use it. I think it's beautiful if you're into that, like awesome, but do it with integrity, do it ethically. Most porn is completely fake. And I know this personally because I've known former porn stars. I met some of them. I've done this research and talked to these communities, and it's heartbreaking. Most of that porn is completely fake. They're literally acting. That's why they're using so much lube. If a woman was actually aroused, they wouldn't need to do that. The women are acting. That's all fake. That's not how women behave. And it's often extremely violent, intense, and like way too kinetic and all about smashing genitals together than it is around connection, love, attunement, intimacy, subtlety. And that's the problem for a lot of men, and a lot of women will act this out too. They go into bed for the first time with a man. They think that's what he wants. The man is afraid of, coming too soon or performing. So he thinks he has to do that for her, instead of just meeting each other in reality, eye gazing, breathing together, slowly escalating, focusing on foreplay, having, intimate, vulnerable conversations about what they like, what they don't like, sexual traumas, kinks, what they're not available for, boundaries, creating consent first. That's the way to approach it. So if you're confused by sexuality and you're having trouble with that, there's so many resources out there. I would definitely recommend finding a tantra, resource, or a resource on authentic relating and communication. You can look up the erotic blueprints. You can look up many of the facilitators out there that are trustworthy and in integrity and clean that are sharing this information. And it really starts with you. If you don't know how to self-pleasure and turn yourself on in a grounded, healthy way without resorting to, distorted realities like porn, you need to start there. You need to even know what you like before you can be with a partner and communicate what you like to them.
Yeah, such good advice. How do you explain emotional intimacy and physical intimacy? Like, as in the first time that, a couple are together, like, at what level does the man need emotional intimacy to be able to connect more than just physically, and maybe not just to have it as a one-off experience?
Yeah, in general, it depends on the person. The feminine's heart has to open before her womb will open, her sexuality, right? And then for the men, it's the opposite. Often for men, the sexual connection has to happen for their heart to open, because the man is physically penetrating with his lower centers, energetically as well. And then the woman's penetrating the man with her heart. Her feminine energy is actually opening his heart. So there's this really beautiful yin-yang connection. But it can be difficult without a lot of communication for a lot of men, because they're not used to opening up about, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling really attracted to you. Or it can be very vulnerable and confronting for a man to feel a lot of emotion, especially with a new partner. So as the woman, you can help him by just communicating, going slow, being clear, sharing your desire in real time. As the man, you can help open the woman by connecting to her first intimately and energetically through emotional bonding before rushing into penetration.
Yeah, I think that's important, isn't it? To, this emotion, even though, it's often spoken about that men connect physically before they connect emotionally, and women the other way around. For a man not to just see it as a one-off experience, are you saying there has to be some level of emotional connection for the man before, jumping into bed?
Ideally, if it is just a one-off experience, it's going to be really hard pressed to create that connection. So consistency is there, and like a container, there has to be a container for the connection. So when you're dating, when you have desires for a relationship, you need to be upfront about them and be very clear about the steps you're going to take to create intimacy, create the connection, and slowly escalate into the physical side. That's going to be your best way to approach relationships.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. Well, we're up to the 90-minute mark pretty much. So I want to just thank you so much, Kevin. We covered so much, and you're just brilliant with your answers. So thank you. Let people know, please, where they can find you, and we'll drop all the links below as well.
Yeah, Gemma, thank you so much for this. It's amazing to come back. And yeah, I love speaking with you. I hope so many people watch this and share in the comments what they're resonating with here. I would love to hear feedback personally as well from anyone who's watched this and enjoyed. If you've watched till the end, especially, you can find me everywhere online: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Substack. Best place is probably Instagram at Kevin J. Orosz, Orosz. You can find all my work there, my videos, my posts. You can join my community on Facebook, the Polarity Dojo, which Gemma is in. And yeah, kevinorosz.com is my website. I do run free and paid masterclasses. I also do private one-on-one coaching as well as group coaching. There'll be more programs I'm launching later this year. And if you're in the USA or in and around the Austin, Texas area, I'll be doing workshops and retreats there this year as well. So really excited for the in-person meetups. I also am running now in-person immersions on intimacy for couples and singles. So this is all part and parcel of really where I've shifted my focus over the last year, is all in on relationships, dating, intimacy, and polarity. I also do have clients where I'm helping them build their business and brand, and teaching conscious sales, marketing, and visionary business practices, which I do love, and kind of taking that off the front shelf, but it still happens. So yeah, reach out. Grateful for this conversation, Gemma, and thank you so much for hosting me.
Amazing. So thank you everyone for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and we might be seeing Kevin again in a couple of months. We'll see. I just love having you on here with this information. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks, Kevin.